Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now, today's first story comes from a throwaway account and says, am I the arsehole here for tricking my sister-in-law into stealing our baby name? Cheeky. So, I, 33 female, have been married to my husband, Kevin, 35 male, for 5 years. We have a 3-year-old daughter and I'm currently pregnant with twins, male and female. My brother-in-law, Terrence, 38 male, has been married to his wife, Jess, 39 female, for 7 years. Jess and I are total opposites. Jess is an extrovert. She's kind of loud, boisterous, and some would even say abrasive. I'm an introvert. I'm not quiet or shy, but I am reserved. I'm also very observant. The first time I met Jess, I told Kevin that we would be like oil and water. We have never been overly hostile towards each other, but also have never gone out of our way to bond. Unfortunately, Terrence and Jess had fertility issues for several years before finally having their son a couple of weeks ago. Prior to this, Jess was very odd towards us when I was pregnant with our daughter. The best way to describe it is hot and cold. One minute she pretended like she didn't care while we were talking about it at family gatherings. The next she was volunteering to throw the baby shower. I gave a firm no to that. We both assumed the behavior was because of their fertility issues and didn't think too much of it. But the strangest thing she did was almost demand to know what we were naming our daughter before we announced it. She asked us constantly after our gender reveal and got visibly annoyed when we just laughed her off and said it was a secret. We couldn't understand why the hell she cared so much, as she was not expecting at this time. Regardless, we didn't share the name with anyone. When our daughter was born and her name was finally announced, Jess was kind of obsessed with it. I don't know how to explain it. She just kept going on and on about how beautiful and unique it was. To this day, she comments about how different it is. The name we chose is a pretty common Welsh name, which wouldn't be all that different except for the fact that we are African American. Lol. I've always gravitated towards names from different regions and found and fell in love with a name years ago and never shared it with anyone prior to Kevin. Fast forward to both of us being pregnant at the same time. Jess's odd behavior continued towards me, but this time it was more blatant. Snarky comments under the guise of jokes about how big I was going to get with 2 babies and that my body would never snap back like it did after our daughter. She even accused us of getting pregnant on purpose after she announced her own pregnancy, even though the whole family knew we were actively trying, and at the time of her announcement, I was already a few weeks along and didn't know. One thing about me, introvert or not, I'm no pushover and will stand up for myself. But I chose to ignore Jess because I knew that would get to her more than confronting her would, since she seems to thrive off drama. Jess was obviously much further along than we are. However, we did have our gender reveal prior to Jess giving birth. And right on cue, the baby name interrogation started again, because they decided not to find out the gender of their baby in advance. Jess kept hounding us for both of the names we had already picked out, but again, we declined to answer. After days of this, I got annoyed and asked Kevin if he thought the reason for her insistence was so she could use the first name since she was due first. He kinda chuckled until he realized I was serious and said he didn't think so, but that anything was possible. So I said, let's test it. We were due to host my father-in-law's birthday at our house a couple of weeks later, and I decided to leave something in the unfinished nursery with a girl and boy name on it and see if Jess went snooping, because Kevin thought it was silly. He said he would give me $20 if she did it. So I went on some site where you can order custom name wall decals and put in the names Aria Rose and Sebastian Ali. These are names that we like but aren't remotely close to what we chose. This will also be our last pregnancy, so even if Jess did use them, we wouldn't care. I didn't complete the order. I got to the final page and then printed out and hid it in a dresser drawer in the nursery. The party goes off, but because we were busy hosting, we never noticed if Jess disappeared for any extended period of time. When I went into the nursery the next morning, nothing was out of place and the order sheet was still in the exact location. So we both just went, welp, and forgot about it. I did, however, notice that Jess never asked us about the names again. Then Jess gives birth. We went to the hospital to give our congrats. When we go in and see the baby, I asked what his name was, and man, I cannot properly explain the shit-eating grin that came over Jess's face as she says Sebastian Ali. I mean, she was really proud of herself, and honestly, it's the most vindictive I've ever seen her look in the years I've known her. But instead of reacting how she was expecting, I put on a performance like I had graduated from Juilliard, a school in New York apparently. Oh my god, that's just a great name. He's so cute. Look at his widow face. Oh, I just love him so much. Welcome to the world, Sebastian. Auntie is gonna spoil you rotten. I mean, I'm laying it on thick without an ounce of bother. The range of emotions on Jess's face went from shock to confusion to rage in the span of maybe 17 seconds. Meanwhile, my husband is holding in the laugh of the century. We later say our goodbyes and he gives me a 20 in the elevator while almost crying laughing. All I could say was like I thought. This was 2 weeks ago and we haven't seen them since because we wanted to give them time to settle in with a new baby. I've heard from my mother-in-law that Jess doesn't seem as thrilled about motherhood as she thought she would be considering how long it took them to conceive, but said it might be just baby blues. Obviously, I think she's just disappointed that her petty move didn't have the desired effect on us. I did share this with my sister, and while she laughed initially, she did say it was kind of an arsehole move. So, am I the arsehole here? But there's no way you can be the arsehole in this situation. You literally knew what she was going to do, so you printed off a bit of paper, and then she went snooping in your place to find out these names, and then thought she was going to get one over on you. You know. These were all choices that she made in the end. Teresa says not the arsehole. That's hilarious. Put sister-in-law on an information diet about having anything to do with your pregnancy and kids. Sister-in-law probably isn't done trying to cause drama. Yeah, there's the possibility that she might try and change the name if you give it up beforehand. Opie says, I am more concerned about this now. Before her pregnancy, her and brother-in-law lived in another state for years. That's why it was so easy for me to ignore her. They moved back here in May and it's become harder to dodge her. Teresa replies that saying, be ready for the questions about where you buy their clothes, what pediatrician you use, what extracurricular activities you're going to do, what daycare, preschool you use, etc. Avoid telling her details if you can. Proper Foundation says not the arsehole and well played. Jess got exactly what she deserved. HB Mart says yeah, I think it's impossible to be an arsehole towards certain people, and she's one of them. You just have to take them down however you can because they're never going to stop making life difficult. So OP came in with her update and says, hey y'all, thanks for the responses to my original post. The comments were funnier than I was expecting and kept me and my husband pretty entertained. I tried to respond to as many as I could before they got away from me. I've gotten some messages asking for an update, but nothing major has really happened. Jess didn't break into my house to push me down the steps and steal my kid, lol. I did get some additional info though that I can pass along. Before I get to that, I want to give a little context about my relationship with Jess to explain why I did what I did. Feel free to skip past it. No, I don't think so. To put it plainly, Jess and I have been in a one-sided beef since the day Kevin and I started dating. I give her zero thought if I don't have to, and yet I live rent-free in her mind. Based on snide comments she's made over the years, the reason why is jealousy. Kevin and I dated only a year before we got engaged. We were then married within 6 months of that engagement. We had an actual wedding with a ceremony and reception, went on a honeymoon, bought a house in the burbs and got pregnant in rapid succession. Both of us have good careers and are financially stable. Mother-in-law, father-in-law and grandmother-in-law all adore me. There is a churchy reason behind this that I will spare you on. Jess and Terence did not have a similar path. They'd been on and off since they were 19 and 20, with Terence never really wanting to commit. During one of their breaks, Terence got a friend with benefits pregnant and now has an 11-year-old son. This has always been a sore subject with Jess due to her fertility struggles. Fibroids. When they finally got back together, she pressed him for marriage until he relented and gave her a shut-up ring. Then went to the courthouse on a random Tuesday, then had dinner at Red Lobster afterwards and went back to work the next day. Not trying to be shady, just relaying the facts. They now live in a 2-bedroom apartment in a high cost of living city while working hourly jobs. They aren't minimum wage or anything, but constantly need OT to make ends meet. This has